So hello everyone. I am Diana Chimpero and today I am your host. Together with Don Ham here, my colleague walking on the path of progression with the Modern Mystery School, I have invited him here to talk about more about his life and about his experiences with the path and in his life. But Don, before we start, I wanted to arrive here and now. So together with all our viewers, please let's take 3 deep breaths. And exhale all the stress. Just come here and now. Arrive. There is nothing to do, nowhere to be. Beautiful. Thank you. And I also want to set an intention for everyone that is watching this video with us and is joining us later. I wish that the people take the most out of our confession, because this will not be a normal interview. It will be we, the people behind the titles and everything we do in our everyday's life. It will be no masks, no anything. It's just life experiences. And I really want that people feel this safe space that we are creating here. And yeah. So Don, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Been through life. So life is happening, but there are blessings in disguise, I like to tell them. Yes. If you want to share with us a little about your life, your past and your path, and what brought you on this journey.
What brought me to the mystery school, or what brought me to this call, or?
What brought you? Well, first of all, let us know something about yourself. What is your background?
Sure. Well, my background is kind of interesting, maybe a little different from other people that you've had on your show before. So myself, I like to tell my story. My life story kind of took place in 4 parts. So growing up as a kid, like I had a pretty awful childhood. You could say I was abused in every way possible, mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually. I was in foster care. I was in and out of, gangs, all sorts of crazy stuff. As I started to get older, the next phase of my life began where I started to become the monster I feel I was bred to be. Like all of those things that it had been done to me, I started to show up in the world and kind of be those things to myself and to other people. So I like got involved in drugs, I got involved in gangs, I was in and out of jail. A lot of crazy stuff happened, and ultimately those what had happened to me and what I had done kind of built up to this point where I didn't want to be alive anymore. And so in my late 20s, I tried pretty consistently to take my own life. I had 2 successful suicide attempts where I actually died for a couple of minutes each time. And each time I would die, they would bring me back to life, and I'd wake up in a hospital bed, and I'd be like what? Like, just let me die, people. Like, what's going on? And in the last suicide attempt, I had kind of this moment where I I like to tell people I've been kind of looking all around me for solutions to my problems. I mean, I had so much pain from what had happened to me. I had so much guilt and shame from things that I had done. I would look at my past and I couldn't deal with what had happened to me. I would look at my present and I couldn't deal with where I was. And I would look at my future and I was just like, it looked so bleak. It looked so hopeless that I just didn't want to be here. And I looked all around me for solutions. I was on meds for antidepressants, for meds. I looked at illegal drugs to try to help me raise myself out of that state or just deal with it. I tell people like the voices in my head and the negative emotions are so consistent with my life that I called drugs chasing the silence. When I was super high, it was like the only time where those voices of like those inner demons or that depression or whatever was just gone for like little pieces of time. And then I would get sober and they would come flooding back. It would be almost more painful before. So I was just like, well, I need more drugs. I need to keep going. I need to always stay high. And so I tried illegal drugs to try to get out of it. I tried all sorts of other stuff too. Like I went to therapy. At one point I was in like group therapy. I was in, all these different kinds of therapy for years and years and years. And at some point I literally remember there was a group of therapists that looked at me once and they were like, yeah, man, we've been working with you for years, but honestly, with all the stuff that's happened to you and everything that's going on with you, like we don't think we can help you. And so it was really kind of devastating to have, trained professionals that are supposed to help, people look you in the eye and be like, I don't think we can help you. And so I was just like, I don't want to be here. Apparently it's helpless. And so I looked all around me for solutions. And ultimately I thought maybe the grave had the answer. I was just like, maybe that's it. But in the middle of trying to kill myself, some miraculous things happened. It's a long story, so I won't tell it for the sake of time today. But there was a moment when in the middle of trying to kill myself, I realized that where I had never bothered was looking up, or looking within. So I had never really considered that maybe within me I had the power to actually be the type of person I wanted to be, or have the life I wanted to live, or heal the wounds that seemed unhealable. And then maybe there was something outside of me, maybe something above me that could actually support me and help me. And so that was really like a huge kind of shift in my life where I was just like, okay, well, if I've tried all the world solutions and they're not working, maybe I should try looking outside myself. And that's when I began in my late 20s, early 30s, kind of went on a quest for spirituality. And then my spiritual quest kind of took two turns. It was looking at powers above me, Jesus or Buddha or whatever. So looking at or God itself, or looking at powers outside of me that could help me, and then also going within and realizing like, hey, if I had some tools, did I have some tools within me that could actually change things for me? And so I remember I was, I was on probation at the time. I got arrested for selling drugs. I was looking at spending the rest of my life in prison. And I was talking to this therapist that I had at the time, and I just looked at him as I was like, "Look, I just tried to kill myself several times. I don't want to be here. Can you? Yeah, I don't want to be here." And he's just like, "Well, of course you do." He's just like, "Look, you're here. You want to be here." I was like, "No, man, I've tried to kill myself. I don't want to be here. The only reason I'm here in this office with you is I'm required by probation to be here. I don't want to be here." And he's just like, "No, actually, you do want to be here. You have 100 million options. You could go try to kill yourself again right now. You could not be in this office and try to run from the cops. You could hide in the hills. You could be high right now. You could be doing all these other things. And sure, while those things may have worse consequences than how uncomfortable it is to sit in this chair, you are here. So you obviously want to be here. You are choosing to be here." And he spent that next hour just kind of belaboring that to me. And at some point, I sat there and it kind of anchored in that I really did have the choice. I could really choose to be here or not be here. I could choose to do this or this. I asked him, I was just like, "What's the difference, do you think, between me and you? Between you on that side of the table and me on this side of the table?" And he's just like, "Honestly, the difference is one choice." He's like, "If I go get drunk with some buddies tonight and some guy throws a punch at me and I punch him back, and next thing I know, I get arrested for fighting, I'm on that same side of the table, and our roles are reversed." And I was like, yeah, the power of choice. And the next day I was actually watching TV. I'm old enough that infomercials used to be a thing. You used to watch TV and people tried to sell you things. The internet wasn't really a thing. And I remember I was watching this infomercial, and Tony Robbins was on this infomercial, and he was talking about how rough his past had been. And he was just like, "Well, my past had been this terrible thing. These terrible things happened to me. And at some point I heard psychology say you are a product of your environment. And I saw what people that had my life, kind of ended up, they ended up in prison. They ended up on drugs. They ended up homeless. They ended up all these terrible things." And he's just like, "I refuse for that to be me." He's like, "So this guy you see right here, Tony Robbins, I made this guy. I chose who I wanted to be, and I did the work to become this guy." And I was just like, well, heck, if this guy could have this life and he could turn himself into this person by just choosing who he wanted to be, that's what I want to do. And so I literally did everything I could to galvanize and anchor myself in spirituality and self-development or whatever, to get to a point where I entered the next phase of my life was really where I just tried to become the person I wanted to be. So I went from bad things happened to me. I was the bad things that was happening to me, actively going, I'm going to choose to be who I want to be. And in that moment, I spent about the next decade of personal development and self-help and spirituality. I started going to school to be a pastor because I really found solace like in the Word of God and in the salvation story of Christ. And so I went all in on that. And one day, about 10 years later, I looked in the mirror and I was like, huh, I like me. It seems like people like me. I was just like, wow, I did it. And the second I realized I was finally the person that I wanted to be, and I hadn't thought about suicide for years, I was just like, let me be the change in the world I want to see. And so that's when I went to school to try to get a degree in psychology and get a degree in counseling. And ultimately, that path led me to the Modern Mystery School, where honestly, for as much as, I did probably a little over a decade of personal development and spirituality and self-help stuff before I found the Mystery School and the life activation and the path and all those things. And honestly, I'd probably say I've grown more in the past 2.5 years since I started doing it with the Mystery School than I even did in that like 10-year chunk of like incredible work. So now I'm here today, and I work as a life coach. I'm also a teacher with the Modern Mystery School, life activation practitioner. And what I try to tell people when they ask me what I do today, I was just like, well, there's kind of two things. First of all, I ask people, I was just like, do you believe that this life is it for you? If you do believe this life is it for you, then as a life coach, as a person that's trained to help you in psychology and whatever, I can help you have the best life possible. Get rid of those things that are holding you back, clear the blocks, help you build a staircase towards your dreams. Like I can do those things. But if you acknowledge, just even simple Newtonian physics, which says energy can either be created or destroyed, but it can only change forms. And what is animating the stardust that we are right now is actually energy. It's electricity. So that means that there is something about us that can never be created or destroyed. It can only change forms. That you have to start to kind of acknowledge or accept or contemplate the reality that this life probably isn't it. And if it isn't it, then it is important to get prepared for what's next. And so the Modern Mystery School and the teachings and the healings that I found in the school not only help you in the here and now to have a better life and more progression, more freedom, more power within yourself, kind of know yourself and know your own power, but also helps prepare you get ready now for what comes next. And so I'm just on a mission to help people have a better now and a better tomorrow. And what were you going to say?
I was wanting to stop you there because I wanted to share my gratitude for this ample for this big sharing and the honesty you did. Because ever since I know you, and I'm telling you a secret right now, you're the first one on my show. I have been wanting to do this for a very long time, but something inside me told me I'm not good enough. I saw other people's video, other people's interviews. I was just taking parts and gaining information, but that's it. It was plain information without me doing anything with it. So I wanted to drop everything, unlearn everything that, as you said, and come out. What is the worst thing that could happen? And regarding the escapes that you went through to cope with life, to say so, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because my friends, especially my friends, know this path. I've been there. I used to consume every night. That was my reward for being, not just being, but stopping my mind overthinking or telling me stuff that I needed to do. And I see, ever since I heard your story, I just wanted to share it with the world, but I'm not the perfect person to do that. So you had to be the one sharing it. And I haven't heard you outside talking about it. So here we are today. That's the reason I gathered you here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's a story I love to tell because I've been in places where I've had people look at me and tell me that my life was hopeless. I mean, one of the other stories I told was that at some point in my life, like I said, I was actively trying to kill myself. I didn't like what had happened to me. I didn't like who I was. I looked forward. The life seemed hopeless. And I went to all these different people, and they were to try to seek help. And at the end of the day, it was kind of hopeless. And so, yeah.
Even
And so
sorry, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Even though you knew everything what's happening with you and inside of you, it's like being an expert of what is happening to me, but not being able to do something about it. How was it knowing what you're going through, but not being able to get out of that?
I mean, honestly, it was such an awful situation because especially as you can probably tell, like I've always considered myself a pretty intellectual guy, like a pretty smart guy, straight A's in school and, top of my class pretty consistently. And so to feel like I had this incredible mind that could solve problems and create things and whatever, but I couldn't fix the problems in my own life. It was just like the most utterly hopeless, helpless feeling. Um, and it became increasingly difficult to figure out like why I should be here. Why I should keep trying, keep fighting, whatever. I mean, it's crazy. Like at one point, I felt like I was bringing, positive thinking, the movement, like The Secret came out, and people like law of attraction and positive thinking. And I was so sad all the time that I literally started to think, hey, maybe I should kill myself because my sadness is kind of like weighing down the human population, or my inability to like be a good person is causing so much pain in other people that
God,
maybe if I
yes.
just wasn't here, maybe the world would be a better place. And so it's a pretty awful thought to even have in your head, even for a second, let alone just mine over it day after day after day, to really believe that your presence, your existence on this planet, like is not only painful for you, but is hurting other people. And for as long as I can remember, like growing up as a child of abuse, growing up, I just remember I was just like, I just never want anybody to feel how I felt in those moments. And then as I got older and I realized like how I handled situations was just like, yeah, if my dad, didn't get what he wanted, he would yell at people. And so then as I get older, I want to get what I wanted. And I started yelling at people. And I was like, no, no, I've become the problem. But I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know something else was capable. And unfortunately, the way that psychology was at the time, and in a large way still is today, it's just like, well, you've been that and you have those maps, and that's just you. Like that's how you're always going to be.
Like
And
in a box.
that yeah, and that thought process is so toxic. I mean, now what I know about like neuro, biology and stuff like that is when you when you say BS like that to somebody, what it does is their mind starts to literally create physical formations that map to that. So then when you start having a thought and you're just like, oh, maybe I could be somebody someday, or maybe I have value, or maybe I'm worthy of love, or whatever, your brain has already literally built fast net connections like to go, no, that's not true. Remember these 55 people, like doctors and therapists and parents and friends that told you that you were trash, that you were garbage, that you deserve to be dead, that you deserve to spend a life in prison, that you deserved all these terrible things. You tell somebody that, especially a child, a young person with their brain still developing, and their brain does start to get hardwired there. So it really takes like some sort of radical shift to take that, like literal physical restructuring of your mind and just flip it around and start building connections that actually go to a more powerful, more empowering place. And so, yeah, man, it was awful. I mean, just to say the one, like I intend to be fully vulnerable on all this. Like I'm still not the world's greatest human being, and I still have sadness and structures now, and I'm
I
trying, and
knew
I'm better
that.
than ever before. Um, but what I will say is one reason why I find it so important to be just honest with where I am is that I know some of the stuff that got me from where I was to where I am today was seeing other people talk about where they were and see them today. And when I would see people today and I would go, this guy, this woman, they seem really awesome. I never would have guessed that they were here. Never would have guessed that this was their life before. And I think that's just kind of what we need. I think we kind of need to know that if we find ourselves in the lowest places possible, that those mountaintop experiences are still available for us. Like we are not helpless. We are not hopeless. Like there are tools, there are things on the planet, there are people on the planet that can help us, get to where we want to go. And there are tools and powers within us that can help us get there. And they're available like right now. Like they exist right now, no matter how awful somebody's feeling or how dark somebody's day is or how hopeless they seem. Like that switch, we're literally just like one moment away from like turning the direction of their life.
And still,
And
it's
so,
not enough to make the switch in your mind. So you can think about it. It's like, for example, you have all these therapies where you talk about your emotions and what you're going through, but in the same time, you are okay. It has two sides. One side is where you realize when you speak up loud what is going on within you, and the second one is that you attach to the emotion that you're going through. So you've been through that process. Why did it brought you further? And how did you switch or find a way in the modern mystery school doing it without talking? Because I don't know in the school any therapy of talking.
Yeah, I would say like a great question, by the way. Yeah, so I'd say probably the huge shift is like, so if you believe you're your body, like if you identify like, hey, who am I? I'm my body. Then you are all of its like its hungers, its sicknesses, its drives, its whatever. If you believe your mind, you are your mind, then you believe that whatever's in your head is what dictates and controls you or whatever. If you believe that you're spirit or that you are something outside or bigger than your mind, then you can start to actually have that kind of drive the ship. And so we can understand pretty quickly we're not our body, because right now, if I was my body, no matter what I wanted to do, if I wanted to, I couldn't stop myself from breathing in or breathing out. But guess what? Oh, there's a part of me that's in control, even
The
though there's my
decision.
heart's still beating. Yeah, there's a part of me that's still in control. Now, so if I was my mind and I was just my mind, it's really interesting. Eckhart Tolle said once, like kind of when he had his enlightenment moment, he was sitting there and he was just like, I want to kill myself. And then he went, hold on, I want to kill myself. He's like, there's something going on. Like there sounds like there's two people having a conversation. And once he kind of had that moment, that visceral experience of like, hey, there's something outside of this mind or whatever that is actually like kind of more in control. Like that's when the stuff started to shift for him. And I know that I'm not my mind, because I can literally be like, and just look at, I can just start thinking thoughts like gratitude, for example. And all of a sudden, after 5 minutes or whatever, 10 times of just being like, I'm grateful for Diana, I'm grateful for the Modern Mystery School, I'm grateful for, water, that's clean. Like I know tons of people around the world don't have clean water. I have bottles of clean water right here. I'm so grateful. After you start doing that, you can all of a sudden know, hey, there's a shift. So there's a part of you, there's something, part of you that is actually able to take control of your mind and start directing it towards what you desire, like what you want. You can use your mind rather than your mind running you. And so, yeah, it was once I started realizing that thing, that there was something outside of us that were control, that was, that was more in control or had the ability to be more in control of us, of our mind. That's when I actually started to realize that things like talk therapy and whatever, all those really do is just reinforce the authority of your mind over your life. It's just like, oh, this thing happened to you for 10 years ago. Well, for the next 10 years, we're going to talk about how painful that thing was 10 years ago. And then rather than leave that thing in the past where it was a lesson you could learn or strength that you gained from surviving the experience or whatever, we're actually just going to continue to relive the trauma over and over and over. And then what that starts to do is it starts to program the mind that the world is dangerous, people are dangerous, you're in danger. And then you get in this state where you need drugs to deal with it, or you need more therapy to deal with it, or whatever. What I like is that a lot of those things that are hurting us and healing us, literally the biggest way that you can heal that is to let it go. Like
And
you
my
find
next
yourself,
question is, how do you let go?
well, so it's crazy. I love that people ask me that question all the time, because it sounds like it's so crazy, it's so whatever. But
Yes.
here's what I'm going to do. So right now I have a little piece of paper here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try really hard to let it go. I'm literally trying to figure out how to open my mind, how to open my hands. And maybe Diana, you can convince me. Just tell me that I have the power to let it go. Just tell me.
Just let
Say
it
it.
go.
Just let it go.
Try harder.
Try, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. I know I got it. I could. That is pretty much what modern psychology and a lot of spirituality and a lot of stuff is doing, is they're just like, let it go. You want to know what letting go is? No more effort, no more thoughts, no more energy directed in that way. I literally, if I'm trying to figure out how to get that thing to hit the ground, I'm literally trying to take my energy and my power and direct the energy to that to get that thing on the ground. But at the end of the day, if I have a thought like, oh, I was abused when I was a kid, but I'm just like, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it now. I survived it. I endured. I'm still here. I'm never going to see those people again. I think I
And I
just
gain
don't want
life
to.
experience.
Yeah, I gain life experience. I think I just don't want to think about that anymore. And you just let it go. And then the next time the thought pops in your head, you're just like, no, I don't really want to think about that. And you just let it go. And then you harbor maybe anger or sadness or fear towards those people. And you'd be like, you know what? I don't want to feel that way about those people, about that situation anymore. I think I'm going to just let it go. And you do that over and over and over again. And next thing you know, you're like, crap, that's crazy. I hadn't even thought about that for years. I mean, it's actually crazy. So when I used to think about suicide daily,
Mm.
maybe several times a day. I was just like, I don't want to be here. This is miserable. And every once in a while, when people ask me about my life story and I have to talk about that had to commit suicide, I was just like, what? When was the last time I thought about killing myself? And I was just like, I can't even really remember. And the main reason why is because years ago, when those thoughts would come in, I'd be like, no, that's not an option. So didn't give it any power. I didn't give it more energy. It didn't give it any time or attention. And it just, over time, it just kind of dissolved. Um, and the other thing that actually is cool, because he said a little about the Modern Mystery School. The one thing that I actually think is extra cool about stuff at the Modern Mystery School is a lot of it actually deals with the energy body, those things that are you outside of the body, outside of the mind. They deal with those things outside of that. And what's cool is that when you have a traumatic experience, the energy from those experiences can get locked in your energy body, like kind of this field that kind of like permeates and radiates around you. And actually nowadays the cool thing is, modern science we can see those different levels of fields that we have, because literally our heart is a giant toroid. It's generating magnetic energy that goes out behind us or outside of us. And so we can now start to see these things. Well, what ancient healings and stuff from the mystery school actually do is that as you have, let's say you have a painful, traumatic moment in your heart, and that kind of explodes into your field or collapses your field because your heart's beating more weakly with sorrow or whatever, or the pain from these traumas kind of explodes and causes a little damage to the energy toroid around you, like the field around you. What these healings can do is it can actually go into that energy structure. You begin to like clear up the little particles and the dust and the dirt and begin to heal them. And then begin to do the same for your heart, so that as you begin to radiate, that field is more powerful and more beautiful and more strong. And it can do that without you having to talk about it, understand, or know anything about what's going on at all. So I think that's one reason why I said in the last like 2.5, 3 years I've been in the mystery school, in the last 10 years of work that I've done, that I've actually seen my growth, go parabolic, is that I didn't know for how much mind tricks and emotional tricks and all these different things that I kind of learned to take control of my mind and take authority over my body, that I actually had all these other pieces of me that I wasn't really acknowledging or wasn't really dealing with. And as I started to get healings around those and understandings around those and empowerment around those, more and more stuff started dropping out of the way. More and more areas of my life, it's just like, you get a life activation, for example, and one of the things that happens in the life activation is they remove blockages that you have to the light, and they literally anchor you in the light. So, for most people, they're walking around right now and they're kind of like lamps that aren't plugged into the wall. sure, they have everything they need to be a glowing, shining light in the world, but they just don't have access to that outlet. And a life activation literally takes the plug, cleans it off, plugs it into the wall. And now all of a sudden, two things kind of happen. First of all, now that you're actually plugged into the light, and now that you're actually starting to be in alignment with the light flowing into you, that the energy of creation flowing in you, now your ability and your power to do things like heal yourself and transform yourself and clean up your mind and take authority of your body and your mind and all those things, the power to do so becomes way more available. The other thing that happens is it actually starts to show you where the shadows and where the darkness is in your life. Now, the one thing that's crazy is like, if you're ignorant of a problem, it's often very difficult to change it. So say, for example, if you have, like a disease right now that's curable, but you're dying from it, but you never go to the doctor or you never find out what this disease is, it's going to be really hard to get the right treatment, the right medicine, the right, whatever you need to get those things changed. And so sometimes if you're just ignorant, like if you're ignorant on the effects that certain foods have on your body or certain actions have on your life, it's really difficult to change it. It was just like, oh, this is what I've always done or whatever. But so that ends up actually becoming one of the most toxic things that can happen to us as people on the planet, is just that ignorance around what is actually beneficial to us, what's of the light and what's darkness in our life. And so the first time it's kind of like if if you're in a house and you've never plugged your lamp into the wall, and the first time you plugged it in, you're like, holy cow, this place is a mess. I didn't know that this table was so dirty or whatever.
Yes.
Well, the second and then you don't know that all that dust and mold in your house is causing you sick and causing you to be physically sick, and all the clutter in your house is starting to cause you to feel cluttered in your mind and nervous within your energy body and all those different things. Once the light finally comes in, it starts to illuminate those pieces in your life that you're just like, oh, maybe this relationship isn't the best for me, and maybe this job isn't something I really want, and maybe the way I've been thinking about myself, maybe I just don't like those thoughts anymore. Maybe this heart, this anger, this sadness I've been holding on to, maybe I just want to forgive and let it go. And so it really is kind of this beautiful, this beautiful moment where you start to actually get the resources, like the light, the energetic resources and stuff you need to actually, two things: see what's going on in your life that you maybe need to get rid of or need to change, while also getting the power to actually do so. Which I think is so powerful. It's one thing to tell somebody like, hey, go do this thing and change your life. And then people just be like, but I don't have the ability to do so. It's the other thing to be like, change your life. And they'd be like, I don't have the ability to do so. Well, here's the power, and here's the awareness, and here's the tools you need to get there. And then as you keep walking in the mystery school, what you end up getting is, as you go to like empower thyself, and you get an initiation, and as you go to all these different initiations, each time, each level, you actually get more light, so more ability to do, and be everything that you want to be in your life. And you also get more illumination on those areas of your life that maybe are inhibiting the light in your life, or the empowerment, or the kind of beauty that you want to have in your life, while at the same time getting what you need to actually make those adjustments and those changes and build that staircase, towards your life that you want. So it's really powerful. I think that anybody right now that finds themselves like at a therapist or looking at the bottom of a bottle and just going, maybe the answers are in this alcohol, or maybe getting ready to do some drugs or something, or maybe just taking pills that was prescribed to them by a doctor to help them feel better. It's one of the things that I can tell you that like the stuff in the mystery school is so helpful, is that it doesn't take a radical belief. It doesn't take constant affirmations. It doesn't take all of these different things to experience like illumination and empowerment, like almost instantaneously. It literally just takes having something like a life activation work on you on those more powerful, more important levels, those places that ultimately do have more power than just our mind or just our body, those things we can use to gain more power over our mind and our body, and actually get that level of empowerment, while also getting new ways to take control of and direct our mind, and new things we can do to bring in more light. Those things can be hugely transformative. And I would even say, if you like your therapist and whatever, that's cool. Keep going to see your therapist. But if you get something like a life activation, and that comes in and anchors more light, the stuff the therapist will give you will be two things, either more helpful, or you'll start to see where maybe the therapist just isn't wrong. He's maybe just putting more darkness into your life. You'll have more clarity and more illumination. And then if you want to keep going into therapy, you actually have more power to experience more benefits from therapy. And if you decide not to, you actually have more power and ability to find out other things that do help you. And as you keep walking the path, that power and ability just gets more and more. And so, and I just see that in my own life. I was a pretty happy guy, before I found the mystery school. I didn't actually realize how unhappy I was, though, until 3 years after the mystery school. And then I was like, why is my life so, I thought my life was good. My life is really so much better. And it really has been. It's not because it hasn't been like painful in times, because sometimes having the light shine on the darkness, you're like, this thing I'm doing is not really benefiting me. Sometimes that's tough, if you're in your ego and you're like, I'm a cool guy, I'm doing all the right things, I know my stuff, and then you're like, oh, this thing, yeah, that thing, I should probably stop that thing also.
I'm happy you brought this up. There's one more thing I want to cover. And I saw the tendency of people being afraid of losing their identity in joining mystery school, for example. And I often see the misunderstanding between finding yourself and giving your power away. Because what the mystery school teachings are doing, actually, out of my experiences, is giving you tools to go on your path. It's not our way or no way, I want you to elaborate that if you can, please.
Yeah, so actually that's my favorite, thank you for asking that question again. It's actually one of my favorite things. So what the mystery school has never done once is told me how I have to act, how I have to live, who I have to be, how I have to show up in the world, what I can or cannot create, like anything. What they have told me is basically, at the end of the day, that I am God. I have the authority, the volition, the power, the tools, the ability, everything I need to be and do ultimately whatever I want. Now,
and how is that not feeding your ego?
Oh, how's that not feeding my ego?
Because many people think, okay, if you're told you're God and you're above other people, but
sure,
we're all God, right?
Well, so we're all God is the first answer to that question. So realizing that I am what you are, what everybody is. So first of all, it doesn't. I will say actually, and this is a good point. If there are people out there that will tell you that you're from God, but what they're doing is they're trying to anchor it in from a dark place. A dark place usually of authority and rule and power over other people. So I'm God, so now I'm better than you, I can control you or whatever. And that type of ethos actually does get you into the negative ego. And you have to be careful with that.
That's why I didn't like the church from the beginning.
Yeah.
They blamed women being dirty, being whores, being unsaint. Yeah. That was my protest against them in my teenager days, where I searched for more.
Yeah. And ultimately that was the same thing. So, I alluded earlier, I was going to school to be a pastor at one point in my life. And one reason why I wanted to become a pastor was that when I was just like, hey, I haven't looked outside of me, I haven't looked up. I've looked to the grave, I've looked all around me for solutions. I didn't look up. I was like, let me look. In the first, in America, Jesus, Christianity is probably the biggest religion. So I was like, let me go to a church. And I remember when I heard the story of Jesus, they're like, God, there was a Bible verse that said, for a good man, perhaps one would die, but the love of God is this: when as yet you were a sinner. So the word sinner that's used there in the Bible is when you were like the most disgusting, vile human being, like totally unredemptive, whatever. Like when as yet you were a sinner, Jesus died for you. And it was the first time in my life where I kind of went, holy shit. Like, in that time of my life, I didn't love me. Nobody I knew loved me. And when I heard that the creator of all that is, the God of the universe, loved me enough, and Jesus loved me enough to not just say he loved me, like, oh, hey, buddy, I love you, but to actually be like, I'm going to prove I love you by dying for you when as yet you think you have no value or worth. that moment, I was just like, holy cow, that's a love that can't be taken away. And so that shifted everything. It was actually the love that I felt in that act that shifted me entirely. I was like, well, I am loved. Well, if I'm loved and nobody can take that away, then I want to be different. I want to be better to myself and to other people because I'm loved. Like I'm worthy of love. So I must have some sort of crazy intrinsic value if Jesus would do such a thing, if God would do such a thing for me. And when I saw that, I was just like, well, then if I have that much value, then if somebody with this much value wouldn't keep trying to kill themselves. Somebody with this much value wouldn't keep poisoning their mind and their body and their soul with drugs and all these other things. I was like, then I want to be better because I'm valuable. So I tried to share that as I wanted to share that with the world. I thought it was such a beautiful message. And unfortunately, after years of transforming my life and having my life transformed by that message, I stood before a group of men and I was going to be assigned to work at a church. And they're like, what would you like to do? And I was just like, well, I'd like to work with at-risk youth, like people in their teens and early 20s to help 17-year-old me not become
Oh.
30-year-old me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at me and they laughed. And I was like, what's so funny about that? And they're like, well, look at your life. You're a drug addict, you're a drug dealer, multiple suicide attempts in and out of prison. No one will ever trust you with their kids. And the crazy thing was that I had actually been doing youth ministry for free for years, and plenty of families trusted me with their kids. And when I kind of saw that, I was just like, whatever the message of Jesus is, and when about total transformation, that you were this, but this is possible, and this is possible for you right now. And Jesus standing in front of groups of people saying, "You see all these cool things I'm doing? You could do these and more." To be told that I wouldn't be a good enough person. I wasn't healed enough. I wasn't transformed enough. The love of Jesus and that message wasn't powerful enough to heal not only me, but to give me the ability and to help other people like me, 10 years younger versions of me. I was just like, okay, whatever this message is that the church is spouting isn't the right one because I'm not sure Jesus would agree with anything that they're saying. And that's when I started to just really realize the hypocrisy and stuff. It's one of those things where if you have a person that sits at the front of a church and says, I'm the Pope, I'm a pastor, I'm a priest or whatever, and you have no access or authority or ability or power of God other than when I blessed you and when I forgive you and all of these things, it basically makes you hopeless. It takes the power and the volition and the ability to actually really heal and transform and grow and impact the world in positive ways out of your hands, and it puts it in the hands of another person. And then they can use that power to actually push you down and oppress you and keep you weak and small.
That's not even what Jesus preached, right? He said, you can do as I do, and even more.
Yeah, or even more. And it's crazy. I often like to say, and it's one of my huge beliefs, that when Jesus said that, what Jesus is alluding to was that, hey, I am actually I'm a human, flesh and blood, just like you. I am just showing you what's possible for people to do.
Exactly.
And you could do more. And so I really believe 2000 years ago, Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha and all these people were actually trying to start conversations that humanity has just chosen not to continue or finish. Like humanity, it's now the stories about Buddha, about Jesus, about Muhammad. But what about you? You have that power and more. What if you were able to build a life on from there and go forward?
Moreover,
and I think that's
Jesus showed us the path. I mean, there must be a
absolutely
path. He has been here. He has walked it before us. So what an honor to be part of this. Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to call it. It's a great experiment, but it's an experiment that we all contribute to, and we are building this world together.
Yeah. Well, and so that's when I say, to just kind of like answer your question about like, hey, how does knowing that you're God not devolve you into the negative ego? Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, if you know you're God, but you aren't pointed in any particular direction, who knows? Who knows what comes out of that? I don't know. There's plenty of gods in the pantheon of ancient lore and whatever that didn't seem like they were the greatest people. Still gods, but didn't seem like they were the greatest people. I think the one thing that's different, and I just spent, I was just at a Tony Robbins event. So obviously, Tony Robbins is probably the most, popular, famous, wealthy, clearly the wealthiest, the most successful life coach on the planet. Spent 4 days with him in this retreat, had some really powerful, profound experiences. But at the end of the day, I felt like something was missing. I felt kind of a sadness. I felt in a small way, like almost like I had wasted my time. Because usually after 4 days at a mystery school thing, I come out and I feel like, that's so beautiful, so pristine, so powerful. And I left that and I felt lost. And I was just like, well, what's the difference? I was just like, well, if you tell somebody you have personal power, but they really don't understand what they're directing, what aims they're directing that power, or they're only directing that towards creating a better life or having more wealth or more relationships or whatever, they're really locked in this finite life, 80, 120 years or whatever that we'll live here, as being that happiness in this is the key to end all. Whereas the mystery school has a different thing. So they first of all, in one of the first classes, you go to empower thyself, and they'll basically tell you over and over and over, you're God, you're an eternal being, are neither created or destroyed. Therefore, you can never die. So once you start to go, okay, so first of all, I'm eternal, I can never die. Whoa, okay, so the things I do now might have consequences long term, positive and negative. Okay, so that's a serious thing. So okay, so maybe I'm probably, I tell people all the time, I think about it. Think about eternity as much as you can possibly comprehend eternity. Now think about how long you might be on Earth. 80 years, maybe more, less. Okay, what is 80 years in the scheme of eternity? I mean, it's a grain of a grain of a grain of sand. I mean, it's minuscule. And so ultimately, whatever the consequences or benefits are here and now, like the pain isn't going to last forever. It's just a small thing. But it is a seed. This life is a seed that begins to grow into what's going to be next for you. So the seeds you plant now, as you start to get more power and more freedom or whatever, those seeds are going to like sprout into more things. So getting clear on where you're going and what direction you're heading and stuff now is super valuable. And the cool thing that the modern mystery school talks about is just like, well, what's your purpose? Why are you here? You're God. So what? What are you going to do with that? At least on Earth, the goal is to build Shambhala. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to build heaven on earth. Now, if you're trying to build heaven on earth, and that's your directive, and it resonates with you, and you're just like, doesn't that sound like a beautiful thing? And you're like, okay, well, then I need the wisdom and the tools and the knowledge and the experience to build those things. Where are they? And then you go, okay, the mystery school has them, they've been handed down. Okay, so those tools exist. Okay, so now I have to implement them. Okay, so cool. Now I have a life activation and I have these different initiations. Okay, so now I actually have the power. So I have the awareness that I'm God. I have the light and the energy of that flowing, and it's directed towards creating heaven on earth. All of a sudden, moving in the directions toward creating heaven on earth, removing more and more darkness from your life and building more and more light and bringing more and more light into your life, doing less things that hurt and more things that help, less things that harm and more things that heal. As you start to make that shift, the negative ego actually starts to dissolve, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to build heaven on earth by yourself. At some point, if you are only interested in your own self-preservation, your own self-worth, and your own, things of the ego, at some point, what gets created is your version of heaven is going to be another person's version of hell. Your version of heaven is going to have somebody else in that be a slave. I mean, it's actually one of the things, if you look at like Hitler, for example, like here's the kind of, crazy sick thing about Hitler. Hitler was trying to bring heaven on earth. You know how he was trying to do that? Murder everybody that disagrees with me. Anybody that doesn't believe that this is what heaven looks like, get rid of them. There really is only two ways to build heaven on earth. You build a heaven that looks like everybody else's hell, and you kill everybody that doesn't think that's what heaven looks like. or you actually do the work to work on yourselves and work on each other, to actually see the divinity, not just in yourself, but in another person, to value another person's divinity and person just as much as you do yourself, and begin to build and work and encourage and strengthen and work together to create something beautiful and powerful and amazing for each other, so that everybody can have a home, everybody can have a space, everybody can have the love, everybody can have the healing. And it all starts with recognizing that the God that is in me, like I'm God, you're God, everything that's possible for me is possible and available for you. So then how do we get there? How do we do that together? Because at the end of the day, I mean, I love the heck out of you, Diana. If Shambhala or heaven on earth got built and you weren't there, it wouldn't be heaven to me.
Oh,
If the people in my life, if Shambhala got built and there are people in my life that I love and I care for aren't there, it wouldn't be heaven to me.
because you cannot share the
Because
beauty,
you
the
cannot
happiness
share,
you
because you
are.
cannot share, and because it would be sad. It would be like, well, I hear this beautiful place, but this person. So at the end of the day, everything that the modern mystery school does is it mostly just tries to heal those wounds caused by things like the negative ego. It heals the wounds caused by just the darkness that's around us and the darkness we've let into our own life and the darkness that we've done. It shines the light, it brings the light, it shows the light, it helps you remember who you are. And from that place of remembering, it reminds you that everybody else is the same, like is God also. And then also allows you to acknowledge that what the difference between heaven on earth being a blank white sheet or being a rainbow, vibrant, brilliant colors, is that the differences in us, even as God, the differences in us and who we are as God and how we show up and what we want to create in the world and whatever, actually is what starts to create the beauty and the art and kind of the mosaic. We are entirely different, individuated pieces of the puzzle. We are different and distinct, and sometimes in one degree, sometimes in several. And actually acknowledging the value and the power and the beauty of that in ourselves, our own difference and individuality within ourselves, and then with others, and then from that place, beginning to hone and polish those gems and those crystals, those rubies and those sapphires and diamonds and all those things that we are, and allowing light to shine more radiant and more radiantly through them, then we become, like the most brilliant stained glass ever that just like illuminates and makes everything, more beautiful and more possible.
Full
And so the modern mystery, long answer to your question, but the modern mystery school isn't interested in you becoming a robot or doing exactly what they say or doing what they do. What they
Or
will
using your
remind you is,
power.
yeah, what they will remind you is you're God. And then it'll be like, okay, where's good things going on in your life? Okay, now you have the power to do more. Where's bad things going in your life? The power and the clarity and the illumination, get rid of them. Now that you have more light in your life and less darkness, and more light and less darkness, what do you want to do? How do you want to show up in the world? What do you want to build? What do you want to create? How do you want to heal? You look at some of the highest people in the mystery school, that do the most work in the mystery school. They have other things that they're doing outside the mystery school because that's their little piece of what they wanted to do to bring into the world. So they use the power and the tools and the knowledge they got in the mystery school to go out into the world and create something else more beautiful. So it's like, yeah, I've had zero experiences where the modern mystery school has told me how I should think, how I should act, who I should be, what I should do. I've had consistent reminders of who and what I am, consistent ability to be given the power to become ever more that thing, to get rid of what's not serving me and do more of what is. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's actually also helping me do things like be on the show where I can be like, hey, how do I want to show up and serve in the world? How do I want to show love to other people? I just want to help. And now I just have more clarity and more ability and more power to actually do so. Understanding, it's funny. One thing that I shared, when I was at Teachers Academy, learning how to be a teacher in the Modern Mystery School, as I said, at one point I was suicidal, like I've said a couple times in this, and I went to a biologist, and they said I was an animal. They said I was an animal. I went to a therapist, like I said, and they said I was hopeless. I went to my parents, and they said I had no value. I looked at myself, and I thought I was worthless. If you believe you're an animal, like I did, you'll act like an animal. If you believe you are hopeless, you will live without hope. If you believe you are worthless, you will throw yourself away. But if you believe you're God, what's possible?
Go deeper.
Yeah, what's possible? And so the modern mystery school reminded me that I was God. And once I kind of acknowledged that, I went, well, in my version, one of my favorite, sometimes people ask me, well, what is God? How do you define God? Actually, my favorite definition of God is that than which no greater can be conceived. So if you're sitting there in your mind right now and you're like, well, God wouldn't do this or God wouldn't do, well, then whatever you're thinking about isn't God. Because you're right. God wouldn't do it. There's something brilliant. So God is that than which no greater can be conceived. So if I actually want to live up to being God, if I want to actually look at myself in the mirror and being like, I am being and living and acting as that than which no greater can be conceived. Do you think I'm going to use that to destroy other people or take advantage of them or hurt them or imprison them or beat them or rob from them or manipulate them or whatever for my own means? That would be a monster. I would consider that person the devil. So no, if you actually embrace if you actually embrace what it means to be God, and you actually like are just like, well, then as God, my mission is to build heaven on earth. Devolving into the negative ego and using that to, lord yourself over other people or abuse other people or take advantage of them or whatever is impossible. That's not God. That's a demon. That has nothing to do with God. If you believe that's what God does, then I would challenge you to think that your definition of God is lacking. God is that than which no greater can be conceived. I can think of a better thing than like a church or a pope or a pastor or whatever that, harms people, hurts people, abuses people, manipulates people, wounds people, keeps them weak, keeps them small, keeps them fearful. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I guess ultimately that's the answer to the question. It's just like, how does that not devolve you into a negative ego? Well, because the negative ego would be a demon, it would be the devil. It would have nothing to do with God. Since God is that than which no greater can be conceived. It is, the goodness is a quality of God.
Definitely. And I'm so grateful for you sharing with us all these things, especially because we are also trained to choose every day, every moment of our lives, to choose where to direct our energy. And maybe sometimes you identify yourself again in an emotion and everything, but then you go out again or you connect to your heart and you choose.
Absolutely.
You choose again and
again.
Absolutely. I love it. You spend a week being miserable and then you come out again.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it is good because, like I said, kind of my journey to being the person I am today was when somebody just convinced me and I actually chose to believe that I did have the right to choose. I had the right to choose my thoughts, I had the right to choose how I use my body, had the right to choose. Now, sometimes it feels, sometimes the consequences of this choice versus this choice are so dire that it feels almost impossible to choose the other thing, but that choice is always available. But I do like that. It's not like I don't get sad or I don't have tough days or I don't get frustrated. But the two things that now that I know who and what I am, now that I have the tools and the power and the energy to tap into, even when those moments happen, there's a moment where I'll go, oh man, like I've just, what have I been doing with my past week? Actually, I am God. Like, actually, it is going to be okay. Actually, I can do some things in this moment. Actually, I can heal. Actually, I do have the power. Actually, I am going to do this thing. Actually, and then all of a sudden you're just like, boom, you're out of it. Like, you're just like, oh, now I'm moving in another direction. Like, I think, thank you. That's a great, that's a great point that you just made. I love that.
I'm really happy that we did this, that we had this meeting, this interview, this sharing. I think it needs a second part too, because I didn't have a chance to ask you about relationships, and I know you are very eager to talk about relationships.
Sure,
I'm happy to share about. We had a great conversation today, and we will have I don't know. Let's see what the hierarchy of light wants from us, with us. We are here to serve life activation, paradise self, modern mystery school classes, as a teacher, as a certified teacher.
Yeah, here to serve. I mean, I definitely at the end of the day, all I want to do is help people. My hope is that if you saw this and any piece of my story or Diana's story has resonated with you in any day, anyway, if you find yourself in a place where you're feeling helpless or hurting or hopeless, you're trying to numb the pain from just being alive by drugs or alcohol, or you're trying to go to a therapist or whatever, and all these things is just not working.
Please
Maybe
reach out.
maybe just try something else. Just try. At the end of the day, whatever it costs to do a life activation or whatever time it takes, to sit down and talk with somebody, in the school to learn more or whatever it is. Um, whatever you've been doing is too expensive. Think about the hours and the days and the time that it has taken from you and how much more you could have from life, from finances, from relationships, from whatever, like if you just had your power back, if you were just able to
So that support.
have something different. Yeah. So, and it's available. I mean, if it's happened, look, man, like, I might be smart and I talk a lot and all those things, but like I was at a place where I was hopeless. And I'm not now.
Mm-hmm.
And the Modern Mystery School has been a huge, huge transformative piece for me. Has been worth every moment, every dollar, every anything that I've invested to really invest in myself and move myself forward and get ready, not just for having a better life and helping build heaven on earth, but also start preparing now for what's next. This is huge for me. So
I know you're a warrior. I know that.
yeah.
Very grateful you joined me.
Thank you.
I'm afraid
Thanks
we
for
have
inviting
to close the session. It's been an hour now. I would love to sit here and listen to you, but I have another meeting waiting for me.
Cool.
Thank you so much for your sharing.
Thanks so much.
And
Thanks
I
for inviting me.
really hope that we manage to schedule another session,
I would love that. I would be honored.
Thank you so much for your time and for
Thanks so
your
much.
sharing. See you very soon at Warriors.
Oh yeah, see you soon.
Yeah. Have a great day.